Hey everyone, and happy Thursday. Welcome back to episode 24 of the Movie Mates podcast, part two of our Scooby Doo series. I am Matthew, joined by my wonderful co host and best friend.
Album.
Hey, bud. Do you want to describe basically what we're going to be talking about? What movies we're going to be talking about today for our Scooby Doo part two?
As mentioned in our previous Scooby Doo episode, the live action reboot of the franchise Scoob is coming out on Friday, May 15th. So, in preparation for that film's release, we're covering all the live action forays into film from the Scooby Doo characters. So, today we're talking the newer films, which are Scooby Doo The Mystery Begins, Scooby Doo Curse of the Lake Monster, and Daphne and Velma, one that I had never seen until just yesterday. And I'll let you know whether I enjoyed it. So, yeah, do you want to? We can jump right into Scooby Doo: The Mystery Begins.
Absolutely, pal. Absolutely. So, I guess I'll just start off with my controversial opinion here.
Okay, crack on.
I prefer this Shaggy to the other Shaggy in the previous two Scooby Doo films.
I'll absolutely let you have that. This guy is great.
Thank you. I think Nick Paladas is that his name? Yeah.
Sure.
I think he's pretty exceptional. Like the voice works good. I think he's very he portrays he understands the character, and I think his casting in particular was spot on for me. I thought it was perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree with you. He's pretty exceptional in this film. I mean, as exceptional as you can be playing Shaggy. I don't know if I would say he's better than Matthew Lillard, but I would say they're on par, especially for like the lack of recognition he gets. He's so much more than the amount of uh, you know, recognition that he's had.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I don't know. Maybe you can enlighten me in this. Like, are these? Would you say Scooby Doo Mystery Begins and Curse of the Lake Monster? They're probably are they less well known than the other two? Because I'd imagine the budget would be a lot lower, considering it was a straight to TV movie. Correct?
So I would say that Scooby Doo, the first film from 2002, is probably the best of. It's probably the best received of all the live action Scooby Doo films.
Right.
Then Monsters Unleashed was sort of like mixed to negative. And then this film and Curse of the Lake Monster and Daphne and Velma sort of went under the radar. Mystery Begins seems generally well received, but Curse of the Lake Monster was quite negatively received.
Okay.
And I looked, and there have been absolutely no details of budget, but the internet seems to agree that it would be roughly $5 million.
Wow. Like
But that's way to like $84 million of the first Scooby Doo, and
yeah,
I
like
think this budget used so much better.
absolutely. Like obviously, there's little changes you can notice here and there, indicating like it has a much lesser budget. But for it to be roughly about 80 million less than the other two, I think it uses it exceptionally. To be honest, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the only budget letdown of this film is the Scooby Doo CGI.
Okay. Well, what are your thoughts on the CG? Not for you.
I think the effects of the ghosts used throughout are pretty impressive. I had absolutely no problems, especially for like this is a Cartoon Network original film. Like I did not have high expectations for this. But Scooby Doo is a bit of a letdown in comparison to the previous films. I know you weren't a fan even in those films, so how did you think this compared?
I think, I think for a straight to TV film, as this one was, I think the CGI is pretty good. And especially for the budget difference, I think it's probably worse than the previous two films, but I think budget wise, proportionally, it's good, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the casting because one thing that stuck out to me was Kate Melton as Daphne. I thought it was Bryce Dallas Howard. I had to Google it because I could have swore it was her, but I don't know.
Oh, I really see that now that you bring it up.
Yeah, because you know, I think I had to Google it, but when I saw it, because you know, I think Dallas Howard looks remarkably like Kate Melton in this. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on Robbie Amell as Fred and who plays Velma? It's on the tip of my head.
Haley, Haley Kyoko.
Yes. What are your thoughts on the casting, mate?
Sorry, Haley Kyoko. Apologies.
No worries.
I think the whole cast is really impressive. I'd say Robbie Amell is the one that comes furthest from the original character. I don't think he really encapsulates Fred, but I do think I think he's a great character. You know, I have no issues with the character. I just don't think he screams Fred. But I suppose that's an issue that's carried over from the original films as well.
That's a good point, mate. I do agree with that. And you know, I think the cast is good, and like I think they have good chemistry together. However, like one thing, although I have praised Nick Pilatus as Shaggy, it does seem for moments of the film like he is struggling to pronounce the voice and like nail Shaggy's accent. I don't know if you got that as well, but I think it does improve as the film goes on. But yeah. I'm just happy to go by your notes, to be honest, mate, and I'll just fill in with any points I can relate to here and there if that works for you.
Sure. Yeah. So at the opening of the film, we see Shaggy enter in sort of a Spider-Man 1-esque,
Yeah.
chase for the. And he gets on the bus and immediately is bullied. But that sort of baffled me because I feel like that this version of Shaggy is someone who would be incredibly popular these days in high school because he sort of seems like the cool stoner kid that everybody would want to hang out with.
Yeah, I put the exact same notes in mine, mate. I said Shaggy is basically the Peter Parker in this film, and like for him to get bullied, I think he's quite an attractive lad, to be honest. He's tall, and yeah, and like for someone to trip him up and say, "Have a nice trip, Shaggy," I was like, "You're in no position to mock him." You know, he's a good-looking lad, tall as well, and you know, it
Like
seems
in comparison to this quote unquote jock, he's an Adonis.
yeah, like he generally seems like a nice guy. However, the one bit I thought, oh Shaggy, what are you doing? Is when like he just ditches Velma when she's explaining her science project. So I thought it was priceless. But hey,
It reminded me of the first episode of Love Is Blind when Carlton took the number.
yeah. I guess one thing I wanted to point out in this film is just right off the get go, as you sort of mentioned in the bus scene, like I would say it's aimed at a much younger audience than the first two, and I suppose that's down to the fact that it's a straight to TV movie on Cartoon Network. Yeah, so I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you think it is aimed at a much younger audience or not?
Yeah, so obviously the first two films, as we both agreed, seem sort of like a parody of the iterations of Scooby-Doo that came before it.
Yeah.
But this version seems much more faithful and respectful of the source material, and it's not making fun of it, it's just adapting. And those were always meant for kids, so inherently it seems that this version is meant for kids. But I think it's incredibly enjoyable for all generations. As an adult, obviously this was your first time seeing it, so did you feel alienated by the tone, or did you enjoy it?
I think that's a really interesting question because I think it just fits right into classic Scooby-Doo lore for me. You know, it's got the classic humor and stuff, and obviously there's very cartoon-esque scenes. You know, when like Shaggy falls into the bin and stuff and rolls right into the principal's chair. I guess like a classic, cartoon scene, and I think it translates very well on screen. However, I guess a potential criticism would be that it sort of narrows its own audience, for humor wise, because it is more of a younger demographic there. But no, I think this film really works personally because it's quite so faithful to the Scooby-Doo lore, with little exceptions here and there. The costumes aren't perfect as well, and that's one thing we'll get into with the Curse of the Lake Monster, in which I think the costumes are much improved for the most part. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I'm very much struggling to read my own handwriting. I still haven't gotten used to writing again.
We've all been there, mate. Honestly, mine's a mess.
we haven't been forced to write for about 7 weeks, so I'm struggling. I'm glad that it doesn't shy away from emotion. Obviously we see that Shaggy's bullied and he feels alienated by his peers, and Scooby feels unwanted when he isn't adopted. And I really respected in this kids film them showing sort of the raw emotions, and I really felt them, and I felt that it was relatable to the teenage experience.
Yeah, like I think you've hit the nail completely in the head here, bud. And I think one of the things that we can appreciate the film is that it is probably more shaggy centric than the other ones, and there is more character development there, and Scooby. Like it really shows their bond. And for the film to open up with Shaggy, I think that's really interesting because, as you said, like he is getting bullied and stuff, and that is quite. And as you said, like it is, we can respect the film for showing that emotion. And I think Principal, is it Principal Deedle?
Yes.
I think he's just so endearing, like showing him his stamp collection and stuff, and like giving him knuckle bumps. Like he seemed like a genuinely nice guy, is what I'll say.
Yeah, like I feel disappointed that due to his turn in personality, I suppose that must have all been an act,
Yeah, that's a thing, because
and that disappoints me because I genuinely liked him.
me too, me too. So I mean the
What,
Kit
what,
Kat.
yeah, I was gonna say is that Kit Kat.
um,
Matthew,
I'll
as
just
the
move.
saying goes, "For break, have a Kit Kat. You're not on break."
I'll just move my mic further away. But yeah, like I was quite disheartened when nobody wanted to adopt Scoob. Like he seems awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's as though when the rich guy gets pounced upon, he's like, "What is this filthy mutt doing?" It's like it's showing love. It's not undog like.
I know, I know. One thing I was really interested. This is the first film where like I found out that Shaggy's real name was Norville.
Yeah, did you not know that?
I did not know that. I thought that was really interesting because Principal Deedle refers to him as that in the first 10 minutes and stuff, and I was like, wait, what? So I had to research it, and that really that surprised me because I genuinely didn't know. I thought his name was like Shaggy,
Dagwell.
Shaggart or something, or Shagwell, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, for a kids movie, I'm impressed that only some of the dialogue is embarrassing.
There's some bangers in there for sure, for sure. Like I don't know what one of my favorite ones is when the vice principal Grimes is like to the bus driver once he crashes, like, who is responsible for this? And the bus driver just points to the kids, even though it's completely the bus driver's fault. I
Yeah,
thought
I
that was
mean,
brilliant. But
he didn't exactly eyes on the road, did he?
no, definitely not. Like, but I respected his honesty for just pointing at the kids, even though it was definitely his fault.
Yeah.
But
Uh, I mean, Vice Principal Grimes definitely does not have the authority to expel children with no evidence.
I know he's like, okay, detention, okay, suspension, okay, expelled. Like what?
All the while, the parents have no idea.
I know, I know. You know, this is not this point isn't really related, but I really wanted to say to you, like, is it just me or is Fred a wannabe gangster? He's like
Are you talking about the dress up scene?
the dress up scene, and also like during his first meeting with Shaggy when they go back to his house, he's like, "Sweet pad, Shag." It's just like, what?
I
Brilliant.
don't know. Maybe we're sort of like tapping into like the raw Freddie Prinze Jr. energy, like when he's like yo 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 dog.
Can we just clip that up? That was marvelous. But no, like as you said, there are some dodgy lines in here for sure, for sure.
Although thankfully, like this does feel like a genuine, just like warm-hearted kids film. There's no like hidden filth.
No, no, there are some dark scenes that, well, not necessarily. Well, I suppose it is quite dark. Like when they just lock Scooby up in a cage that's way too small for him. I sort of I felt so bad because that is like that's animal. That's just animal cruelty. There's no two ways about it. I suppose that's how he finds Shaggy in the end, though. So it was like a blessing in disguise that he fell out of the truck.
Like if the cage is weak enough like to be broken like on impact to the pavement,
Yeah.
you have definitely cured that dog properly.
Yeah, like, but what are your thoughts on like Shaggy and Scooby's bond in this film? Because I thought it was a really interesting narrative to sort of portray it as somewhat of like an origin story, some if you know what I mean. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, sort of in all the cartoons, it's sort of established that they met when Shaggy was like a young boy, which is what's depicted in Scoob and what was depicted in, a pup named Scooby Doo. So it was sort of refreshing to see it happen in high school. And I think I like that even more because it's sort of at a point where Shaggy was desperate for friends and then he meets the best friend that could exist.
Yeah.
So I thought that it was really well handled.
Me too, mate. Definitely. I really like the bond they have, and you do empathize or sympathize with Shaggy because he is quite lonely as well. So I was sort of glad that they developed that bond early enough, and that it was a well developed arc. So.
Yeah. Uh, I don't really know why they would seriously investigate people who just clearly hate their jobs. They're like, must be a villain.
Yeah, it's the janitor, like, but like, yeah, the scene where like they're showing Shaggy like thinking of other suspects I thought that was quite lazy writing. I thought that was just a blatant bait and switch to say it's not those because I think a certain problem with like mystery films is that if you make the main culprit so obvious, you know, and then it ends up being them, I think that ruins the mystery. But
Yeah.
like I would just love if one day, and this is it's sort of happened in Curse of the Lake Monster, but not really. But like if it was just a member of like the gang that was just fucking with the rest of them, like if it turned out it was Fred just the whole time, that would have been great.
But like just being like a lovable scamp, like you don't mean he actually has an evil vendetta.
No, 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 just messing with him, yeah.
A bit of a dickhead for the whole movie.
Yeah, I thought that'd be hilarious. Love
Fair.
that.
Obviously, we see that once they're expelled, they have to re-infiltrate the high school, and they choose such elaborate disguises. And I just remember back in the day, I was thinking, this is so cool.
I
Like,
know.
wow, I was like, damn, like who are these kids? Like, wow, they look so different. And
Is Fred like a rapper or something? Is he like dressed as like 50 Cent?
yeah, uh, Eminem.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
it's
Maybe that was done.
better.
Do you think that was supposed to be like intentionally funny, or do you think they were trying to be cool?
No, like I think it was a genuine attempt at being cool. And back in the day, I was like, yeah, obviously,
Yeah.
the coolest kids have ever. But it's just embarrassing these days.
Yeah. Well, one sort of Fred moment I did find quite humorous was, I think it's when they're led to believe that it's Vice Principal Grimes, and the first question Fred asks in relation to the investigation is, "Can we find out where he lives?" Is it like that's the first go-to for Fred? Classic, absolute classic.
Yeah, obviously their infiltrating skills need some work because like I do think the Velma and Daphne's costumes are like I think they would probably work, but Fred's just embarrassing.
Yeah, yeah,
But
totally, mate, totally.
uh, obviously to get to Vice Principal Grimes' house, mate, I'm struggling with the language so
Okay,
much.
mate. If I could give you a
I,
hug right now, I would give you a big hug.
I haven't hugged anyone since the last day of school. Uh,
Oh.
and I've barely spoken to people, and I'm struggling with my words these days.
Bless.
They found out that Shaggy has been held back twice, so he's the only member of the gang with a driver's license. But he's not insured to drive, so it's not like he's in a better legal position than the rest of them. And
Yeah,
it seems that and it's clearly not based on ability because Velma clearly knows how to drive and Shaggy doesn't. So I
yeah.
was, I was very about their motivation in forcing him to be the one to drive.
So how old would that make Shaggy then? Like if he's
17.
17, yeah. Yeah, I suppose they should just let Velma drive in that case because legally he's, as you said, no better position to cover them. So
Yeah. Uh, so Principal Deedle, yeah, I'm just disappointed because he did seem like such a nice dude, and obviously the revelation that he is the Spectre implies that his nice and caring attitude was all an act.
yeah, that is disappointing as well because I actually did like him as well because he was the only one that really believed in Shaggy and was nice to him, other than Scooby and stuff. But yeah, I know. There is some confusion. I think this film does make a lot of confusing choices Especially there's a moment, if you I don't know if you remember, like with Fred and Velma, where Velma lands on Fred and says, "Are you okay?" To which she replies, "Never better." Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it is the other way around. But I thought that's what I mean. Like the Fred and Velma romance, it's there. It's there.
It kind of is there. I'll give you that. I spoke to my brother the other day about sort of the chemistry between the characters in the Scooby Doo films, and I said to him that the two of us agreed that sort of Fred and Daphne have no chemistry in the original films, and he said, "Well, yeah, obviously, because all the chemistry is between Daphne and Velma."
That's true. To be fair, like they've always had good chemistry in the TV show as well.
Yeah, I think especially in Scooby Doo 2, I see Velma and Daphne. I see you. I think there's a bit of romance there, but obviously, right before they dive into the caverns, they're given the ultimatum of, well, if you don't do this for me, I'm going to kill the dog. And I've quite brutally written, I'd have probably just let the dog die.
What? Seriously?
Well, like, okay, I'll lay out the facts. They've known this dog like 3 days. They're not surprised that this dog can talk. So there's probably other ones about it. It's not like they're like,
True.
Sure, he seems all right. Like, yeah. But I mean, they are being asked to risk their life, because I'm really not confident that I could pull myself up on that rope.
Like,
I think if I go down that rope, I'm going down there to die.
like Dito as the Spectre, he's a weird guy because like he just has a stick of dynamite for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, Principal Dito is obviously the principal. There are so many other ways to go about this than going through the effort to raise the dead. Like, just do it on a weekend, mate.
yeah, I know. Like, just I don't know. And the fact, what is it again? Like, there's a rare misprint of a stamp that's worth a lot of money.
Yeah, but that sounds so dumb when you say it out loud. But that is a classic Scooby Doo caper.
Yeah,
I don't know if you I'm not being ironic or sarcastic when I say this. I do really love this film because it feels like a genuine Scooby-Doo mystery. And, I never really liked supernatural elements, and obviously this film has ghosts. But, behind it all was like a human culprit that they could unmask, which I don't think was really present in, say, Scooby-Doo 1 or present in Curse of the Lake Monster. So I would say that this is probably my favorite live-action Scooby-Doo film.
Yeah, mate. Honestly, I'd have to agree. Like the whole, I just like a class, as you said, I like a classic unmasking as much as the next guy. So it was really good. And one thing I found that was really interesting, and I didn't know this before, was, and this is from the Wikipedia page, so excuse the formality, but in the film's ending, the group decide to stay together and solve mysteries, and they head off to investigate some strange goings on at the Coolsville Museum, which is a hint to the very first episode of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? With the Black Knight ghost. I thought that was really cool as an ending.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Because it sort of sets them up for further mysteries.
Yeah. Sort of a weird ending to the film is having the Scooby-Doo, the What's New Scooby-Doo theme, but set to the intro images of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? I thought it was sort of a weird decision to do both.
I think so. Because when was it released? 2009-ish? 10?
2009, yeah.
2009. But yeah, I suppose that was quite a curious choice because when was What's New Scooby-Doo? Was that 90s or 2000s?
What's New Scooby-Doo was the 2000s.
2000s, yeah. Well, no, I think that was a weird mismatch of themes there and stuff. But overall, what are your thoughts on this film? As you said, favorite of the franchise?
Yeah, definitely my favorite of the live-action franchise, and I would say probably one of my favorite films of my childhood.
Yeah, oh, that's really glad to hear because I can imagine from watching it as a child, you are quite nostalgic for it. Yeah.
We'll see upon review whether this makes it into the movies that shaped me.
Okay.
Honestly, it may because it was really integral to my childhood.
I'm really glad to hear that, mate. Honestly, that's really nice to hear because I can 100%, sort of see where you're coming from, because I think this film is a hidden gem for like mystery films, especially for the Scooby Doo. Like it is pretty underrated.
Yeah, I feel like it really allows the audience to follow the mystery. You know, I mean, watching it, did you have any suspicions that it was Principal Deedle?
Not really, mate. To be honest, I thought they were going to go for the obvious, Mr. Grimes, Vice Principal Grimes. But yeah, it did sort of disappoint me because I do like Deedle. I did like Deedle, but you know,
Yeah, so I really enjoyed that balance where, you know, the reveal didn't come out of nowhere, but also they didn't make it too obvious to the audience that you guessed instantly.
100%, mate, 100%. What rating would you give it out of 10, buddy?
I would probably give it a 9 out of 10. Like if you look on it as a kids film, you know, that's just to be enjoyed and you enjoy it as a kids film, and then my added nostalgia, have to give it a 9.
I'm really happy to hear that. Like I'd give it a 8 as well. I really enjoyed it. And
Solid 3 out of 10.
what is it?
I was waiting for you to say like solid 3 out of 10.
For me, like I don't have the nostalgia you do for it, but I can recognize like it is definitely. I can understand why people would feel nostalgia for it because there is some great stuff in there. And yeah, I'd give it a solid 8, 8 out of 10. So,
Very good to hear.
did you want to move on to its sequel, Curse of the Lake Monster?
Yes. So
Okay.
very quickly following it, in 2010, with the release of Scooby-Doo: Curse of the Lake Monster, with the returning cast once again, the cast, an absolute riot. Great
Absolute,
cast,
absolutely.
fantastically put together. Robbie Amell he doesn't capture Fred for me, but his acting is excellent for the character that they've written.
I think he's a really underappreciated actor as well because you know what one of my as I said to you, one of my favorite films is When We First Met, and I think he's pretty good in that as well. Like he can play like a humorous character as well, and he sort of reminds me of Chris Evans in that because he's sort of famous for like his more action sort of roles, but he can play like a funny character as well, which we see with Fred.
Yeah, he's absolutely commanding the screen right now because he had a very recent Netflix film out, Code 8. Well, it was released on Netflix in the UK, but it was, you know, on video on demand, and also upload on Amazon Prime, where again he
Okay.
plays a comedic character and he's incredible. He's such a good actor, uh,
Yeah, for sure, for
and,
sure.
and I wish he got more recognition than he has.
Yeah, definitely, mate, definitely. I'm just happy to go by your notes as well and just fill in with any notes I can relate to, mate.
Well, very like unfortunately for the film, my beginning notes and my ending notes are very similar because they ruin the twist of the film in the first 30 seconds. How did you feel about that first time viewer?
Well, not great to be honest, and this sort of goes back to the thing like I wish they made a member of the gang a villain, and they sort of did in this film, but not really. Like,
I, I think it's an incredible twist if done right, and it has been done right before in Scooby Doo. Where's My Mommy?
I think
And
like
I don't know if you've seen that. Have you seen that? No,
no.
it's a film set in Egypt with mummies coming alive, but spoilers, it turns out that Velma is responsible.
You did sound a bit like you know the episode of Doctor Who, like, "Are you my mummy?" You know that one.
Yeah.
You, you sounded so much. Oh, I loved it. Loved it. No,
I,
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. Is it good?
it's one of the best animated Scooby Doo films, and you know, in the end, spoilers, it turns out that Velma is responsible,
Okay.
and it's a really incredible twist done right, which it is in that film. But here it is piss poor. It is done so badly.
Yeah, like, I don't know about you. I think this film does miss the mark as a sequel. It's still okay, but it's nowhere near as good as the first film for me.
I fully agree, and I don't think I've ever seen a film like obviously there's been films that their you know huge plot twist has been revealed in the trailers, but like that's not the fault of the studio or the editor of the film or anything. This is clearly the fault of the editor of the film thinking that doing like a 1 week earlier idea was a good idea, and it's one of the worst film decisions I've ever seen. Like who would spoil the twist of their own film?
Yeah, I just can't believe the person who edited the film got away with that.
like, who thought? I don't understand who thought that was a good idea. It just ruins all suspense of the film. Like, I mean, even I think as a child, I would have understood that, well, the only person in the room isn't Velma, and she has Velma's voice. I'd put two and two together.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just looking back upon it as an adult. I think that I would have recognized that as a child as well.
Yeah, I think this film like completely misses the mark with how to form like a complex mystery as well. And especially it's integral for a film like Scooby Doo to like follow a narrative wherein you don't spoil the twist. And for this film to do it in the opening 5 minutes, it's scandalous, mate. It actually is.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed on its behalf.
Like it is a really weird. It's probably one of the more bizarre choices I've seen in a movie. And I'll get into Daphne and Velma. Don't you worry. But no, this is right up there as a curious choice.
Yeah. So if we want to get into the sort of treatment of characters, because this film is largely plotless. I didn't find myself making many points about the plot itself, because I don't think there's really anything interesting or of substance about it.
Yeah.
The previous film felt so dense in plot, and this sort of feels quite bland.
Plot wise, I think this film is missing a lot. I think maybe they decided to like flesh out the characters' relationships a bit more, especially like the weird romances in this film that for me completely fall flat. But I think you're right. Just I just don't have words. It's not bad. It's not completely horrendous, but it's not. It's just I can't believe they went for it. It is a bit of a downgrade from the first film. That's what's annoying. The first one was generally good.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see this film until quite a lot later, I guess, in my life. Well, I mean, not a lot later. I maybe saw it, in 2013 or so.
Mhm.
So I was even then a bit more cynical to the franchise. But yeah, no, I just think I agree with you that they were probably just trying to flesh out relationships, and then maybe in a proposed third film, it was going to feel really satisfying that we had all that backstory.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that they didn't get a third film makes this film even weaker.
I think so. I think so. It sort of felt to me. I'm trying to think of the nearest sort of movie trilogy or would be trilogy that I can compare it with, but I think you're definitely right. It almost feels like it is setting up a third film that never happened, and that's where the annoying part is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you haven't seen Divergent, have
No,
you?
no.
No, but Divergent was based on 3 books, and then they decided to pull Hunger Games and split the third book into 2 movies. But they made part one, and it was such a financial disappointment that they never made
Oh,
the final. So that's one of the rare times that I've seen like a book franchise which actually had source material and huge numbers of fans just fall flat and
yeah,
just
yeah.
up before they even finished. Percy Jackson's another example of that because there's like 7 or 8 books. I'm not sure exactly, and they only made 2.
Yeah, well, we should definitely cover the Percy Jackson films because they actually were a lot of my childhood, believe it or not. Like I generally quite enjoyed them.
Yeah, I'd love to. And our friend Genevieve is a massive friend, a massive fan of the book
Yeah, yeah,
franchise. I'm sure she'd love to provide some hot takes.
definitely, mate, definitely. What are your thoughts on like the Fred and Daphne romance in this film? Because like there's a line by Velma and she says like, "There's always been an undeniable chemistry between you two."
Uh,
I can't.
yeah, I was like, it's definitely deniable.
Yeah, yeah, like don't get me wrong, there is some chemistry there, but not enough for them to be making out in the back of the mystery machine.
Yeah, no, I don't know if it's Kate Melton's performance or the writing of Daphne, but she sort of seems absent of personality. So
Okay, I can
I
see
don't.
that.
Fred seems to have chemistry with everyone but Daphne.
Yeah, that's an ironic thing, isn't it? The character that he's supposed to have the most chemistry with.
Yeah. Uh, Speaking of those romances, I would say that this is the one iteration where the Shaggy and Velma romance really works for me.
Really, that's really interesting, mate. Really interesting.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you said that all the relationships fall flat, so I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts
Yeah,
on
yeah.
this.
No, I will get in more into that later. But one thing I have been quite critical of this movie, but one thing I will praise it for is the attention to detail when it comes to adhering to Scooby Doo lore. particularly with the mystery machine, which I think looks awesome, like looks class.
But
And also, I think the costumes. I don't know if you picked this up, but I thought the costumes were more like color coordinated, to be more like the. Obviously, it's not perfect, but like we see them adhering more to their classic costumes in this film more than the first one. I thought, and I thought that was a good attribute to the movie.
yeah, and then obviously when Daphne and Fred are hiding from the lake monster, we see them don their very dumb-looking
Yeah.
old costume,
Yeah.
which, yeah, Robbie Amell. I don't think he's pulling off the blue sweat. Sorry, the white sweater.
Definitely not. He's an attractive lad, though. To be fair, both the ML brothers are
They're cousins.
cousins. It is. I did not know that.
But yes, two good-looking guys.
For sure.
So the big villain of the piece, well, the suspected villain of the piece, the lake monster.
Must have been used very well.
Yeah, I mean, just looking back on how bad like the Scooby Doo, the first Scooby Doo film looks, in comparison to say Mystery Begins. Like, what were they spending their budget on?
I don't know. Maybe the contracts for like Freddie Prinze Jr. and Matthew Lillard and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Sarah Michelle Gellar was a big deal, obviously, with Buffy. So I assume that the big bucks went to like her and Linda Cardellini and the rest of the cast. But I mean, I'm just so unimpressed with how that film looks in comparison to The Mystery Begins, and even this film. Because I mean, I'm by no ways impressed by this film, but I definitely think that it utilizes its budget well.
For sure, for sure. Like, one thing that I sort of picked up on early in the film that was an indicator that wasn't going to be good was when like Daphne, who is on the way to her uncle's country club, doesn't know how to get to her own uncle's country club.
And doesn't know his name, like she
Yeah.
thinks he's the
I was like, shouldn't she know how to get there? But hey, But like, what are your thoughts on like the subtle? Well, I say subtle. They're not really because it's spoiled in the first 5 minutes. But like the clues that the gang unraveled that like Velma is being possessed. We see during the date that like she's hesitant to fire and stuff, and I think she gets like spots and warts on her hands and face and stuff. So like
Yeah, genuinely, I think that they laid the groundwork well. Like, I think that those clues are subtle enough that I might not have anticipated it had they not spoiled it in literally the first 30 seconds of the film.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
I think you take out that one scene and the film improves drastically. Because
I think
I
so.
think that
Yeah.
I think it's a really good concept for a twist that one of them is responsible without knowing it. Like, I am quite impressed with the writing of it. And I think the editor just like I don't know if like the cast or the writer or the director were aware of what the editor was trying to do. Like, I feel like that was probably a surprise, and the editor just screwed them over.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, to be honest. Wouldn't surprise me. One thing I wanted to mention as well was how dapper Shaggy looked in that green blazer. I think it was a good look.
Oh yeah, I mean, like as we said, like Nick's a good looking dude.
He is a good looking dude. And it did sort of upset me that Scooby did sort of sabotage the date. I was rooting for them.
Well, I suppose uh, three is a crowd. He didn't want a third wheel, but I mean, he has no he I'm sure felt quite alone in that moment.
Yeah, no,
There's
I
no
can
female
understand where it's coming from.
counterpart.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed that they never really throw Scooby a romantic interest in any of these films.
Have they ever done in any of the TV shows or anything?
Well, in Scooby Doo Alien Invaders, I don't know whether to be embarrassed by like my encyclopedic Scooby Doo
You
knowledge.
have the best
Uh,
movie and TV knowledge ever. Don't be
but
embarrassed. Be part of it.
but in Scooby Doo and the Alien Invaders, they have two aliens posing as hippies. One is posing as a hippie woman, and one is posing as the hippie woman's dog. And the two of them are paired up with Shaggy and Scooby.
Interesting, interesting. Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. It is curious that they don't present Scooby with like a friendship or romantic interest in any of the films. I think it would be an interesting avenue to explore, to be honest.
Yeah. So in the early moments of seeing Shaggy's attraction to Velma, I had written that Shaggy's romantic cutaways are probably the highlight. You know, where he's in sort of his red and white sort of like barbershop quartet suit.
Yeah, yeah.
And then as I was writing that, it turned into an awful rock ballad, and I immediately regretted writing it because that's one of the worst things they've done.
No, yeah, I relate. I totally, mate, totally. Like, yeah, there is a lot of weird choices in this film in general. Like I'll get into my thoughts on The Witch later, but no, I do agree with you on that one, mate.
Yeah, honestly, I feel this film's pretty bland. I don't have many notes plot wise, so if we go off whatever you've got.
Yeah, so I think one is a plot point, one's not. So the plot point is like, in essence, the witch is basically defeated by like a song, because
Yeah,
so that's one plot point, and also she kind of reminds me of Carol Baskin a little bit, a little bit.
yeah, sure.
Also,
Okay.
unrelated note, have you seen Josh Peters' video with Carol Baskin?
I have seen it, yeah.
Classic. That was a good
She,
one.
she had quite a good response to it. Did you see her respond?
I didn't see her response. What was it like? Did she take it well?
Sort of. Yeah, she took it on the chin very well. She was sort of like, I can see it was all in good spirit, and obviously in this time we all deserve to have a good laugh, and clearly everybody has.
Oh, fair enough. Like, fair enough. Yeah.
Like, Josh made a comment that he expected her to take it well, and he was happy that she followed his expectations.
Well, that's good. Like, uh, I'll time code this Josh Peters chat in the description or something. But did you see his Tommy Fury and Molly May one?
Yeah, I did. That's the one that I felt worst for because that it's sort of the most awkward one, and I feel bad for them because they were just so unsuspecting, and they
Yeah.
dressed up so nicely for it.
I think you and I both agree. Like, we quite like Tommy and Molly, right?
Yeah, I mean they're a bit cringy, but I mean that's just who they want to be. You know, they seem like genuinely nice people.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. But going back to Scooby Doo points, I'm really interested to hear your thoughts. Like, what are your opinions on the group just staying friends? Because obviously by the end we see a potential romantic hint between uh Velma and Shaggy when they share a kiss, but decide to just remain friends. And I guess sort of Fred and Daphne. So what do you think about that?
I mean, I thought that Velma and Shaggy did have good chemistry. Like, I feel like if they had wanted to pursue that in a future film, uh, I would have liked that. You know, I was sort of half expecting it to cut away and then the two of them be kissing in the back of the mystery machine, and they were just lying. Like I thought that it was going to call back to the start, and that
Yeah,
they were the
yeah,
ones lying to Daphne and Fred. Because I think that they go very well together. You know, their personalities seem to mesh
I think so.
much better than
Definitely,
Fred and
mate,
Daphne.
definitely. Would you have liked to see a third film with this cast?
Yeah, because I really think that uh, the weakest point of this film is the editing, not the writing, directing, or acting. So I think that it really could have done well with a third film. How
Yeah,
do you feel?
yeah, I'd like to see a third film because obviously, credit where credit's due. The production team seemed pretty efficient and effective with a low budget. So I would have liked to see where they would have gone with maybe a bigger budget to sort of test the
Yeah,
waters, so to speak.
it was turned around in 1 year as well. You
Yeah,
know, there,
that's the
there was only
thing.
one year between them. Like, a normal big budget film has between 2 to 4 years, and they were able to make like I'd call this a half decent film.
Yeah, yeah,
In between a half and a quarter of the time and like 1/16th of the budget of a normal film.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Like, I think it's definitely not as good as the first. I think we can agree, but it's still decent for straight to TV kids movie on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, I really don't think it's bad. I just think it's sort of uneventful and predictable.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good way to put it. Actually, do you want to move on to ratings, mate, or do you have any other concluding points?
I have one concluding point about the conclusion of the film.
Go for it.
Uh, the ending musical number is bizarre, but I quite like Nick Pilates's vocals. Like, I think he's quite a good singer when he's not trying to do the Shaggy voice.
Yeah, like he's a man of many talents, it seems.
Yeah, like obviously there's the scene where he sings, by the silvery moon, which is not good, but that's because he's doing the Shaggy voice and singing. But
Yeah,
like in the final singing montage. Which, why is that in this film? There's also a rap about Scooby Doo, like about the history of the Scooby Doo franchise. But when Nick's finally allowed to actually just do his normal singing voice, I actually googled to see whether he was a singer, because like he really delivered, I thought, but he isn't.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to see him as Shaggy in a different form of media, in animation even, because I actually really he's probably my favorite member of the cast, if I'm honest, mate.
Yeah, I agree with you. So you wanted to go on to ratings? I'd like to hear from you.
So I think this film's okay. Very, as you said, predictable and definitely misses the mark in terms of plot. But overall, I think the Shaggy and Velma romance works. I think the Fred and Daphne one kind of does, but not really. Um, but I think I give it I give it a 6.5. 6.5. What about you, my friend?
I fully agree with all the points you said, and I'm going to give it an equally solid 6.
That's good. No, I think we both can agree. It's definitely got weak points, but overall, like these two movies were pretty good for a low budget and in the short time span, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I think the energy of the cast makes it like a fun role.
Definitely, definitely, and that's one of the crucial things about Scooby Doo films, isn't it? Like you've got to nail the cast in order to have a successful movie, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for like the Mystery Incorporated version of Fred to be on screen.
Oh, I would love that, mate. Honestly, that is my favorite interpretation of the character, to be honest.
Because I mean, I've only just realized that like Robbie Amell, his version of Fred like doesn't even mention traps.
I know, I know. Like I think Robbie Amell sounds spectacularly like Fred as well. That's the thing. Like he sounds very similar.
Yeah, like I don't think Fred needs to be blonde or anything. You
Yeah.
know, like apparently they had like hair meetings where they discussed whether it was worth dyeing his hair, because they
Wow.
also had to dye Kate Melton's hair because she's a natural brunette, I think.
Okay.
Uh, but I don't think he needs to be blonde, but he needs to love traps.
I agree.
And
That's an
and
integral
there's
point.
not one trap. There's not one
I
trap
know.
in these two films.
I
I'm so
know.
disappointed.
It is disappointing because that's my favorite part of Fred, how engrossed in the trap world he is.
Like in the first film, they use like a wheelbarrow and like knock his legs out, and in the second one, they use like the power of belief.
Yeah.
But I mean, it sort of reminded me of like the end of like It Chapter 2, where they're in like the
It did,
caves
yeah.
and they just destroy Pennywise by believing.
I know. I think I was just thinking back to it, chapter two, and I think I really overrated it in our review. I think I gave
Yeah,
it like an 8 or a 9. It's not good, I don't think.
there's a few films that we definitely need to re-review with some retrospect.
Yeah, I think so. I think so, mate, honestly.
I think I would speak much more favorably to Avengers Endgame with a new review.
Yeah, like I think I'd speak much more favorably to like a lot of the DC EU films and also like some of the Wolverine films because I think I underrated the Wolverine and Logan a lot, but
You I thought that you gave Logan like a 10 out of 10.
maybe I did. But I'll re-listen to it. I'll re-listen to it, but no, I think there's definitely room in the future for us to go back, isn't there, for retrospective reviews?
Yeah, definitely, because especially the MCU, because but before we started to look more in depth at the films, we literally covered like 22 films or something in like an hour and 40.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Like us talking about 3 Scooby Doo films is probably going to be a similar length.
I know, I know. That's good though. That's progression, I guess.
Yeah.
So
So
go ahead, mate. You introduce the next one.
So to jump into Daphne and Velma, the new weird version of the two characters, it's obviously a modernization of the characters from the franchise, leaving out the characters of old and just bringing these two characters and giving them a new origin.
Hmm.
I don't know how you felt about that.
Hated it.
Okay, cool. Matthew, would you like to share with viewers how much you spent on this film?
I spent £10 in this film, but trust me, money well spent. No, honestly, I didn't like it. It's probably the worst film of all time, but it was the funniest film of all time. I no, seriously, mate. Honestly, I this is probably the weirdest film I have ever watched, and I'm so glad I have it permanently on my YouTube account.
Awesome. Okay. Uh, right. So yeah, right from the off, it seems strange that the creators of the film would pluck, the two dullest characters from Scooby Doo, and choose to make a spin off of them. Obviously it's meant to be a feminist tale, which I think definitely works. Using these two characters, but I think very easily, like, it didn't need to be a Scooby Doo film. It didn't need to be called Daphne and Velma. I think you could have called it like any two female names and just made them those characters. Like, it has no links to Scooby Doo. I don't see why they thought this needed to be linked to Scooby Doo at all.
It doesn't even feel like Scooby Doo for me at all. Like, I think you're 100% right. Take away the two title characters' names, and it could easily be any film. And I think you're right. I think it does, do the feminist sort of empowerment well, and stuff like that. But for me, I think this film completely misses the mark and trying to adhere to Scooby Doo lore. I just like, there's some good things in there, but I don't know. I think it's probably best left for, like, a lot of the scenes in this were best left for the cutting room floor. Like, there's a lot of rushed scenes, and for only an hour and 15 minutes as well, it did feel quite long watching it. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I really think that when they were writing this, they learned the wrong lesson. They were like, oh, we need to bring this into the future. We need to modernize the franchise.
Mm.
We need to imbue it with technology. But I think Scooby-Doo works its best in the 60s. And, like, I really don't think, I don't understand why, like, a filmmaker hasn't been wise enough to bring it back to the 60s.
Yeah, because is this film is bound to be set in the future, I'm guessing, by the technological advancements.
Yeah, I'd say the near future, the 2020s.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, the fact that there's no Scooby, Shaggy, or Fred or anything like that, even Mystery Machine, I think that's a really disservice to the lore of Scooby Doo and stuff. And I think the both actors are very well cast, and I think they do a good job. But I just think the script really lets them down. It really does, mate.
Okay. I mean, I have to admit, this film sort of like subverted my expectations, plot wise, because I did think that it was going to be a tale of the two of them meeting, and I was sort of surprised that it didn't begin with like initial animosity. They were friends right from the off, best
Yeah,
friends even.
yeah, yeah.
That sort of surprised me, and I was happy to see two female friends be there and just chat about something like mysteries without needing to chat about boys.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Like, but yeah, I think you're right. Like, this film does take strides in, like, presenting a narrative that hasn't really been shown before. But then likewise, maybe I'm looking too much into this or something. But I just think it's really weird that the high school is ranking children based on exam results and, like, social media popularity. I don't know if that's a good message to have at all in a film. And maybe that's the point. Like, maybe they're highlighting the stupidity of a ranking system like that. Or but I don't know. Like, I just think this film. I think creatively it thinks of an idea and think, yeah, we don't care. It doesn't matter if it's not a good idea. Like, there's so many like technological advancements and stuff that I think it makes it feel really silly personally. But I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are, mate.
Well, yeah, I suppose because of the ranking system, being used for villainous intent, I suppose it is meant to act as a critique.
Yeah.
Because obviously in real life, that would be horrible for kids' mental health.
Oh yeah, big time,
You
mate,
know,
big time.
that would be so detrimental to society. But I agree with you that it maybe goes too far in the technology being a bit too bafflingly stupid.
I gotta give credit. Like, I think the film does have good performances for the most part. Like, I actually really like Daphne's family, especially her dad. I think he's quite endearing.
Yeah, I mean like he has a really recognizable face, but I don't know where I know him from. Did you ever watch the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody?
No, 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 no.
Like I have not fact checked this, but I'm pretty sure that's Arwen, the handyman. I'm
Oh
not
really?
100% on that though. Yeah, I mean you say really, you don't know who I'm talking
No.
about, but that's fine.
But no, like, it is interesting because I actually thought the woman who plays Carol was
You thought that was Ali from Austin and Ali?
no, I thought it was Donna from Riverdale. That's who it was. I think she looked quite similar.
Okay. I thought you were gonna say you thought it was Ali from Austin and Ali because this is her older sister.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. But like,
Again, that means nothing to you, but it's fine.
it's fine. Yeah, it's good. No, it is interesting. It is interesting. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like, I was just curious. Like, the film does sort of. It doesn't give. I don't. Maybe I just completely glossed over it, but it doesn't really give a credible reason why Velma's not really speaking to Daphne for the first half of it.
I think it's because she wants Daphne and herself to not have friends and to do bad academically so that she doesn't rise in the ranks and then get zombified.
Okay, well, yeah, I suppose I can buy that as well. But like, like there are some funny moments in this. You know, Velma trips over a mop and it's instantly created into a video. That was quite
Yeah.
good. I like that. But
I feel like at moments we're meant to feel bad for Velma not having friends, but she's also not nice to people.
she crushes someone's muffin and like ignores
Yeah.
Daphne's wave.
Yeah, I mean, I like, in films like say Scooby Doo The Mystery Begins, it's obvious why we should feel bad for Shaggy for not having friends. But I mean, Velma just doesn't seem pleasant.
No, I can see why. I think her character does improve for time, and I think by the end, you know, we can sort of relate to those characters, and I think they are well cast and give good performances. But I do think you're definitely right there, mate. One thing I did want to mention though, like at the start, everyone at the high school seemed so nice. Everyone seemed so friendly. Obviously, they have ulterior motives with, especially Carol, you know. But at the start, everyone seemed so friendly, to be honest.
Yeah, I suppose the point was that they're only friendly to the likes of Daphne because she's rich and her mom's important. But I mean, I feel like if Velma had given them a chance instead of instantly writing them off, they seemed like they would have been friendly to anyone.
Yeah, has Daphne's family always been like rich and Scooby lore? Because I think they are in Mystery Incorporated, right?
Yeah, she's always been like the spoiled rich girl. Like that was the stereotype in the past, and obviously they've moved past in modernizations where she's obviously a more empowered character,
Yeah,
like in this film.
yeah,
But we've never seen Velma also be like an entitled rich girl, which I thought was a strange change.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
the exterior of her also huge mansion.
yeah. Like, what are your thoughts on like you know a school that is basically is basically a guinea pig factory for for Tobias Bloom, like and his gadgets and stuff. Like, it seems such a weird choice for me.
I mean, I can't believe the government has okayed it.
I know. But to be fair, like one thing I did notice, I'm not gonna lie, I thought the twist was quite good, and I thought it was gonna be Tobias Bloom, and I suppose in some ways it is Tobias Bloom, but he's a hologram. So, but one thing I did notice, like when he came on screen, I thought he had such a friendly face that it couldn't have been like, he couldn't have been that bad because he seemed a generally nice guy.
Well, I suppose because he was a model in Japan.
Yeah, true, true. Did you pick up on that at the start of the film?
Well, what I picked up on from his first appearance is when he like dodges Principal Piper's hug, and then
Oh
retroactively
yeah,
realized because he was a hologram.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
in the moment, you're just like, wow, what a douche.
I suppose so. I suppose so. For sure. For sure.
So for me, the friendship between the two girls I thought was really well portrayed, and I thought it was really believable. How did you feel about like sort of the speediness of their makeup after the incident in the science lab? Did you feel their friendship felt genuine to you?
I think so. I think so, and that's one of the best praises I can give the film. To be honest, like I think their friendship was complex, but also like it was quite realistic in a sense that I'd imagine when people fall out and stuff like it is that they would be quick to sort of make up and stuff. And I don't know. I think it's probably down to the chemistry the two actors have. I think that they work well together, and I did believe it. Like, what about you? What about you, mate?
Yeah, no, I feel like it was really important to this film that they had uh, a convincing friendship, and I think both actors nailed it. And I thought it was really, well written, that it could so easily convince me of that, because obviously a lot of other films have fallen into the trap of, sort of pitting female characters against each other, but this just felt like a heartwarming, genuine look at what a real female friendship is.
Definitely. I mean, I think you've hit the nail right in the head there. And I suppose in relation to that point, like the Scooby-Doo franchise, it's always had very distinguishable characters, especially because they're so stereotyped. But in this film, I think that's really evident. I think Daphne's family, like they're really for the amount of screen time like her dad's given, I think he's a very well fleshed out character. Like you can understand his motives and stuff, that he just wants to protect Daphne and stuff. But then I suppose that leads under criticism. Like her whole life, he has been like responsible for her lucky act, which is one of the most ridiculous plot lines in any movie I've ever seen.
Like, does he have literally nothing better to do? Like, does this man not have a job?
He whips up a class French toast in like 30 seconds.
I assume he just like made every possible breakfast she would want, and then just like picked the one that she was excited about.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean,
nice
when he was sort of like playing, when he was like playing like the keyboard outside her bedroom.
Yeah.
Was she not like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, where's that music coming from? Sounds like outside my bedroom.
Yeah, like she seems to think there is literally like a soundtrack to her life that just appears out of nowhere.
That would be fun. That would be good, to be fair.
I mean, I suppose if you don't know any like life to be any different than that, that's just what you've known all your life.
Yeah,
I guess.
So.
It just seems so ridiculous that she's never like watched a movie and realized that the things that she gets in life aren't normal.
Yeah, like yeah, no, I do like her dad's character because I suppose that does bring like a humorous element to the film, but then I suppose I can't be too critical because it's not supposed to be super realistic. But yeah, no, I do like his character. I do like his character.
She seems to have a huge issue with her dad, and then be perfectly fine with her mom, who is clearly an accomplice.
Yeah, and like, isn't her mom like basically like Tobias Bloom's right hand woman, right?
Like she's a new employee of his. She's basically like invented this world's version of like Snapchat, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh,
like one thing.
So yes, she's a very big entrepreneur.
Like one thing I thought was curious, like how nobody questions Tobias Bloom. Like I know he's a genius and he's good, but he's not that good that he can make a 3D printer of food, right?
Yeah. And like, has he never had like a business meeting where he had to shake someone's hand and they realized it was a hologram?
Like, that is so true.
Like, how has this woman kept this facade going for years?
I know. Fair play. Like,
also, she's like, no company would take seriously, a teenage girl being the CEO. And I'm like, but it's your company. No one needs to take you seriously. You've made the company. You're clearly rich enough to fund it yourself.
Yeah.
And you've made the ideas. Like, what are you talking about?
Where's she getting that money from? And also, like, no one would take me seriously. So I just don't get the main criticism I have for this film is the plot. Like, maybe I'm looking too much into it. Yeah, like, maybe I'm looking too much into it, but like, she wants to steal kids' ideas for good industrial like experiments and ideas, but she's already a genius that she's created her own hologram. Like, that's bad.
I'm like, here's a good idea. Maybe just hire the kids so you don't have to do anything illegal.
Yeah, true. Like that is so true. Like, I don't know that. I think the twist is good. I just don't think the idea was well thought through. Put it that way.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I don't mind the film as much as you clearly do. Like I quite enjoyed a lot of it, especially sort of the feminist energy in the female romance. Sorry, what am I talking about? In the female friendship, I thought it felt really genuine, and what I experience when we go to school.
Yeah, no, I can 100% agree with you on that. I think the chemistry the two actresses have is great. I think it really does. There is a sense of empowerment because it sort of, relates to like, oh, they don't need the rest of the gang to like solve mysteries and stuff. And I think they work really well together, and that is a really good underlying message the film has for sure.
Yes. So in the second act, we see that they've discovered the evil plan of whoever the villain may be, and they realize that they need to help Velma rise in the ranks. So Velma starts putting her all into her work, and she hands in I'm sure a top tier essay, and the teacher does the world renowned method of looking at the first sentence, realizing it's genius, and handing it back to the student instead of marking it.
Yeah, like he just reads one page, like this is gold dust. This is great.
Yeah, like I mean, and then she becomes first position because of that really sick first sentence, I guess.
But I guess that's sort of where the lore of Scooby Doo comes in. Like, if you understand the Velma character and that she is super smart, like I suppose you could believe it in that sense. But if you hadn't seen Scooby Doo before, I guess that could have been called into question. Definitely.
Yeah, like I sort of enjoyed the some aspects of the modernized versions of the characters in that Daphne is now more intelligent than we've seen her previously, and Velma is more tactically useful. And I really meant that until we see the scene 20 minutes later where Velma is karate chopping lasers.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's an interesting way because we've never really seen Daphne as sort of the character who's really invested in the mysteries and is really I guess for want of a better term, like really intrigued, and she is sort of the focal point behind learning more about them and stuff. So it was really interesting to see like her take like the front step and stuff, and definitely for Velma, like she has more. I would say Velma has more to do in this film, but then again, when she's karate chopping lasers, But no, I do
Yeah,
agree with you. I do agree with you. I do agree with you.
but I've always liked Scooby Doo because all of the five characters have, they each have a set role and they have a different personality. But it seemed like the two of these people could, like, each of them could do exactly the same things. And I would have liked a bit more variety. Like, I think had they had this modernized version of Daphne with maybe uh, Shaggy or something, I think
Yeah,
that would have been really interesting
yeah,
because
definitely.
I feel like sort of Velma-izing the character of Daphne and then putting her with Velma is sort of counterproductive. I feel like either have the two characters be different or have two characters that are different.
Yeah, no, definitely, mate. Definitely, honestly, I think you're right. I think this film's like calling out for a character like Hot Dog Water or something like that from Mystery Incorporated. I think that would have been a good wee addition to have, like to have her debut in live action. Like I think that would have been cool
Did you know that she's voiced by Linda Cardellini?
in Mystery Incorporated.
Yeah,
Wow, I did not know that. I did not know that. But she's also a
yeah.
student at Coolsville, isn't she? In that show or Crystal Cove?
Crystal Cove High. Yeah, she is also a student. So, but I mean, I'm sure the age of the actress is irrelevant.
Yeah, no, no,
But
that's true. Yeah.
yeah, I have to admit, I had written down like if it turns out the villain is Bloom, I'm gonna be pissed because it was too obvious. But I was genuinely surprised that it was Carol behind it all.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose like with the whole
So
hologram and the technological advancements seen in the film, it's not too much of a stretch to say that Bloom's a hologram and stuff. So yeah, I thought the twist was good. It's just like I said, I don't know if it was well executed enough.
yeah. So did you have any final plot points that you wanted to comment on?
Uh, Not really, mate. Honestly, I think there was a potential cliffhanger as well with the mystery in Crystal Cove, wasn't there?
Was it Crystal Cove?
I don't know. I remember Crystal Cove was mentioned somewhere in this movie. I don't know if it was the end or am I making that up. But would you like to see a film with these two characters and maybe incorporate the rest of the gang in a later installment?
Uh, I would not.
No, me
No,
neither.
because I have to admit, like I was a really big fan of this version of Daphne, but I didn't enjoy the Velma character as much. But it may well just have been the writing of this film. I can't critique. Uh, sorry,
Okay.
I can't criticize the performance. I think it was just as I said, the characters were a bit too similar in their abilities, and I would have preferred more variety. So maybe if they introduced a surrounding gang, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Like I don't know. I think the casting, as with every Scooby Doo film, I think it's spot on here. To be honest, I don't know, and I think in this universe, regardless of how much I've criticized that, I think there's plenty of different aspects and different roads you could go down with all the technological advancements and stuff. So you could set up a number of mysteries there, but no, I think this is straight to TV film as well, isn't it?
I mean, it didn't go to theaters or anything, but I don't think it was made for Cartoon Network.
But regardless, it's okay. It's my least favorite one, and it's probably the weirdest film I've ever seen, plot point wise. I thought it was very, very bizarre, but hey, it is a kids' film. I can't criticize it too much.
Yeah. So I'd like to hear your rating.
I'm gonna give it we'll say enjoyment. Say enjoyment a 7, and we'll say critically a 4. So, what about you, mate? What about you?
I have to be honest, I was kind of dreading watching this because everything I've seen from it was out of context and it did seem really bad. And I was expecting it to be a lot worse than I found it. And I did quite enjoy myself.
I'm glad to hear that, mate. Honestly, I'm glad to hear that.
Following the, how I felt was a genuine, like the portrayal of a genuine female friendship. Obviously, I am not a female, so I cannot speak to the experience, but obviously we have a lot of female friends, and this is how I feel they would interact with each other, and it felt really genuine to me. So I would give it a solid 6.5.
I think you've really put that review really, really well there, and I'm really interested for your thoughts there, because in many ways I can relate to that and stuff. With what you've said, I think you've nailed it on the head there, mate, completely. So I think that's going to conclude our Scooby-Doo franchise review, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm disappointed. I wish there were more.
Me too. This has been one of my favorite, like, sort of podcasts that we've done, like part 1 and part 2.
Yeah, and I hope Buff Shaggy is listening.
I hope so. Shout out to Buff Shaggy. What a legend. What a legend. Maybe if we mention how Buff Shaggy Nick Pilatus is, then he'll listen, but maybe not.
Yeah, did you see how he had referred to Shaggy as quote unquote jacked?
I know.
Because I presume that was you, and maybe he's not familiar with
maybe people. One thing, Fred is absolutely ripped in Curse of the Egg Monster.
But like that was embarrassing that they just like clearly came up with an excuse to like get Robbie Amell to take his top off.
It's very Archie Andrews and Riverdale, isn't it? It's not so subtle.
Yeah, because like Shaggy is very comfortable in his scuba gear, but Fred must take his top off.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I think that's going to conclude the episode, dude. Thanks for everyone who has listened, liked, subscribed, commented, and shared. We really do appreciate it. And yeah, if you have any suggestions, recommendations, or questions, email us at moviematespodcast@gmail.com, all lowercase, no spaces. And it's been a pleasure, guys. Pleasure recording with you, mate. And yeah, hope you're all safe and well. Take care, and bye-bye.
Bye.